Hello, this is a little tutorial to show you how I make the mini popcorn stitch for the Hyldebær shawl and also how I space out the popcorn afterwards. So I've done the first rows and now I'm ready to do the row with the mini popcorn. I have 17 stitches on my needle. I have the center stitch marked out, so I will put these to the back, and I'm just going to show you how I do the popcorn stitch. So you follow the pattern, it says knit 2, and then you do a knit front back, which means knit into the front of the stitch like a normal knit, and then knit into the back without slipping it, and then you slip it. This is the first increase. And then you knit you knit 1, and you do your first popcorn. So a popcorn is very similar to the knit front back. You knit first into the front, then you lift it over, knit into the back, and then you go back and knit into the front, all into the same stitch, which means from one stitch you get 3. Then you slip it off and you have these 3 stitches. So you actually increase 2 stitches, but we will turn around and knit those 3 together, so no increase. We will purl those 3 together. So you put your needle through all 3 stitches as if to purl. You wrap your yarn around and you purl, like so. Then you turn again, and now you have the already knitted stitch on the left hand needle, so you slip it over to the right hand needle. There you go. And this little popcorn is just like a little knot in the knitting, so I wanted to have a small one. You can make popcorns in many different ways. This one just creates this little small bump. It's also an option to knit it all from the right side, but I'm not going to show you how to do that for this instruction. I'm pretty sure you can find some instructions on how to knit backwards, also popcorn, on YouTube, but this is just showing how I did it. And then you knit until you have 1 stitch before the center stitch. So this is the center stitch, you have 1 stitch left. Now you're supposed to do a right lifted increase. Oops. So you knit into the below the stitch and then again into the stitch. This is not a tutorial again for how to do that, but I'm just showing you. I slip the stitch marker, slip the center stitch as if to purl, slip the next stitch marker, and I mean, you don't need the stitch markers if you can keep track of it, but it's nice to have them there, especially once the rows get longer. Then you knit the next one and you do a left lifted increase, like so. Then you knit 2. So now you have 4 stitches on after this stitch marker and 4 stitches from the popcorn. So they are completely mirrored. Then again you knit into the front loop, again into the back loop of the same stitch without slipping it, and into the front loop. It doesn't have to be super tight because we will knit those together. You turn your work, keep saying knit, you purl them together, and then you purl these 3 stitches together. Oop. Not so easy to do with the camera in front, but there you go. And turn it again and make sure to place this popcorn onto the right hand needle. You knit 1 and now you do the knit front back increase and knit 2. And if we look at the work, you have a little popcorn here and a little popcorn here. I will knit the next wrong side row, right side row, wrong side row, and we will have another row of popcorn stitch on the 4th row, so I will be back for that. Now I'm ready to work another row of popcorn stitches, and this one is described in the pattern, but I just want to show you how I calculate or how I decide where to put the popcorn. So you can see here you have a, oh, excuse me, you can see here you have a popcorn stitch, and there should be 5 stitches between them. So we have the next popcorn stitch here, just after doing the knit front back, and then we do knit front back front, we turn and we purl 3 stitches together. I recommend using some nice pointed some nice needles with a pointy tip for this. These needles are not the best, but they were the easiest to work with in front of the camera as they're short. And there you go, there's a popcorn. So now what I was trying to say is, if you knit 3, you can see you are exactly above the popcorn we did on the first row, and you knit 2 more. So there are 5 stitches in between, which means the 3rd stitch is where you had the previous popcorn, and then there are 5 stitches and you do another popcorn. So I'm on the last wrong side row before the next popcorn row, and I just wanted to show you how it's supposed to look like when it's in the right shape. So this is the top of the scarf and we're working down, and this is the triangular shape forming. So I will just work the rest of the wrong side row and talk a little bit more about how I space out the popcorn, because from this point on there's no longer written instructions. I just explained to you that you're supposed to space them out with 5 stitches in between and 8 stitches between 8 rows between each okay. So now we are ready to do the last popcorn row. I'm gonna show you, this is these 2 first rows were written out in the instructions, but when you get after this, you're supposed to space out the popcorn on your own. The only things you have to keep in mind is you cannot put any popcorn on the increases, either on the center or on the sides, and you have to always space them with 5 stitches between and every 8th row. So it's actually pretty easy. You just have to keep read your knitting instead of looking at a instructions or a chart. So you knit 2, then you knit front back. Oh, it's not really in focus. There we go. And then this one was from the 2nd row, so we know we're not supposed to have one above this one, but this one is from the 1st row. So if you go up from that one, this is the stitch where we know we have to have a popcorn. Now we count back 2, 4, 5. So there could be a popcorn here, but because this was a knit front back and there's really no other stitch, we cannot put a popcorn. So we just work 5 stitches, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're exactly above the last popcorn stitch, or the first one we made on the 1st row, and there are 8 rows. It's on the 8th row after that. So we make a popcorn, knit front, back, front, turn the work, up, purl 3, turn the work, slip to the right hand needle, and then we knit 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. now you can see that you have 2 stitches until the center stitch, which means this one will be an increased stitch, but this one is free. So we can put a popcorn stitch here. 1, 2, 3. So the light is going, the days are getting really short, and I only have this moment to do the tutorial. That's why the light is starting to be a little bit rough, but bear with me, we're almost there. So that was another little popcorn. You can see it's actually aligning with these, but on the diagonal. And now we can still do the right lifted increase. So that's what we're gonna do. We slip the stitch markers, slip the center stitch, and now we have to do the increase here. So we knit the first one, we go down, nope, not too far, pick up a stitch, and then we know we can knit 1. If you are not sure, you just go back and check. Excuse me, you're not supposed to knit 1, you had 2. So we're not knitting this one, we have 2 after the stitch, and we just work the next popcorn. You want it to be mirrored so that both sides look the same and you have the same amount of stitches on both sides from the center stitch. So the center stitch is always, you don't count that, but you count on both sides how much you have. There is a little popcorn, and now you just know you need 5. 1, 2, 3. And when you're in the third, you can see you're exactly above the popcorn from the popcorn row before. 4, 5. Okay. And you do your last little popcorn. 1, 2, 3. Nope. And I keep pulling my hands away from the camera because really weird position to have them in, but this is, you have seen it all before, so I just do it a bit quickly. Boop, boop. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, you could put a popcorn, but since the next stitch is an increase stitch, you are not allowed to. And so you do increase and knit 2. From now on, you will just keep repeating these steps. So the first stitch you place, you have to be a bit careful and measure, but after that it's really easy. And once the rows are longer and longer and longer, you just place the first one and count 5 between each stitch, and just have to think if you're too close to the increase, but normally it would kind of, you have to be able to increase, so you cannot do it on an increase stitch. I hope this helps. I think it's fairly intuitive and easy to do once you have started, so I'm pretty confident everyone can figure this out. Bye!